Hail to the king, baby.
Hi there. I know you guys are here for the interview, but I really just wanted to thank Raphael for taking the time and giving me the opportunity to interview him, as well as making a dream of mine come true. I'm, kind of a nobody on here, right? I'm building a name like anybody else, but something like this is a potentially once in a lifetime opportunity. And for someone such as myself, who's been a huge fan of Arcane Studios and of Raph's work and, of immersive sims and so on, it was mind blowing to get that opportunity. Just like it was mind-blowing to get Clive and Wrench for a review for free. Stuff like that is just insane for me because I'm not a big YouTuber. I'm not a huge, successful channel yet, right? So it's just really cool. So enough of me rambling on. Let's get into the interview. What was it like, starting up Wolfeye after leaving Arcane?
It was both scary and interesting. When I left Arcane, I did not really have a plan. I did not have any intention of starting a new company. I was at that time I was a little burnt out from video games. It had been, I believe, 18 years since I started Arcane, and I had seen the entire arc. From the start of the company to all the struggles, and then eventually joining a big group like Bethesda. Our first real success from a commercial and critic standpoint that was Dishonored, and then Dishonored 2, and then Prey. So at that point, after Dishonored 2 and Prey, even though Dishonored 2 was directed by Harvey Smith and Prey was directed by me, so I was marginally involved in Dishonored 2.
Yeah.
But I had seen that cycle of AAA success enough at this point, with all the bells and whistle and the E3 presentation. So that was exciting. But then I had done it enough. At that point, we had 300 people at Arcane, and I was just tired. I was just tired of it. So I took a big break. Spent more time with some people that were dear to me, and
I think I remember you wanted to focus more on your band and stuff like that too.
Yeah, we had the band as well. Yeah, the band was a cool. I had started to do some of the music that ended up being in Prey, Dishonored as well, Dishonored 2, in fact, it was back then. The music was produced by the same person as now producing my band, by the way, Matt Pearsall.
Yeah.
So after that, I really wanted to take a break and see how it could feel to be away from games. Of course, the problem is it's what I know how to do, games.
Right.
It's my career, and it's kind of like part of my identity, and it's also what people want me to do, which is just kind of weird, but in a sense, I owe people games,
I remember when you announced that you were leaving Arcane, I was like, no. Oh man. But I was like, it's probably good, after you just, you spent, you've been in the industry for what, over 20 years, right? Or longer?
Yeah.
After so long of making games, is probably, way past time for you just to take a little bit of you time and just do something else. Probably refreshing.
Yeah, and even wondering even if I wanted to do more games, frankly,
right?
Because we've seen that cycle so many times, from inception to the release of the game, and all the struggles, and it's more pain at the end. It was more pain than benefits. If it was like that huge level of pain to make a game, it's always, you can ask any developer whether the game at the end is good or bad. It doesn't matter. It's always a lot of pain, a lot of stress. It's a long process. You are typically 3 or 4 years older after the game ships.
Right.
It's weird. You can summarize your life in a number of you've shipped, and no matter what, it's always a struggle. And then the rewards went smaller and smaller for me, as for not necessarily like financially, but from a standpoint of, you know, how much do I enjoy that process versus how much it pains me, you know.
Right.
And so that's why, you know, taking a break, that was important. And then eventually the itch came back. Julien Roby, my partner in Wolfeye, was kind of like, you know, he wanted to start a company with me, and I love working with him. He used to get Arcane for since '99, actually,
Wow.
since Art of Service, and up to until Dishonored. And so okay, well, let's do it. And I, you know, I had this little bit of a PTSD from starting Arcane back in the day, where it was super hard to find money. It was super hard to interest publishers, the press, or anyone. And so I wasn't sure how it would be to start Wolfeye. But in fact, it was different this round. Yeah,
Yeah.
you know, after, because having been in a vacuum inside Arcane, I did not realize that we were not the same as when we started. You know, after
Yeah, yeah, I
Arcane.
can see. Yeah, I can see that. Yeah, because you guys are very well known now, and because you guys really took off after Dishonored, I would say, right? Like when you really,
Yeah, pretty
yeah,
much, yeah.
that was my first ever Arcane game and my first ever immersive sim. Actually, that's like where I fell in love with immersive sims and Arcane and everything. That's an awesome game. I go back and play it all the time. But
Yeah, thank you.
yeah,
Yeah, it is definitely the game that, yeah, that launched us in a way. Like, even though we had made immersive sim for
Right.
10 years before, prior to that, but that's Dishonored is one of the popular immersive sim. Like,
Yeah.
you know, it's not the
It's
first
one of the
immersive
few
sim,
that like broke
one
through
of
the
the,
mold and actually made it, which is such
yeah,
a hard
exactly,
thing for immersive sims.
totally. It's like the curse of immersive sims. So
Yeah.
since then, yeah, starting Wolfeye actually was incredibly easy to find, you know, interest in publishers and capital. The thing is, it's never really easy, but it was very
Yeah.
easy to get interest. It was
Right.
very easy.
A lot easier than it was starting up Arcane.
Yeah, it doesn't compare, right? Like, this time we would meet directly the right people at the
Yeah.
companies, every companies, and they would always welcome us. And you know, and then our goals and their goal might not always align, so that's then it would not conclude into a deal. But yeah, the process was much more enjoyable. And yeah, and this time though, I wanted to make what I thought was going to be a smaller game. And eventually Weird West ended up being a pretty big game.
Yeah. Yeah. I
But
definitely would say it is. Yeah.
it was, sorry.
No, I'm sorry. You continue. Sorry.
It was small in sense of the team. You know, we had a really tiny team, and part of the key to keep a team that was as small as it was for Weird West was to make a deliberate choice of steering away from hi-fi type of art and graphics, and instead focusing on a pretty art direction, but very simplistic assets to deliver, in comparison to, for example, Prey, you know, which was everything was super high def, etc. And that allowed us to reduce the art team from 70, 80 people to 4. You know?
Yeah.
That's a substantial.
What was some of your like inspirations for Weird West, like as far as um and some of your challenges for like it being an isometric immersive sim? I know some people think that maybe like Fallout and stuff could potentially fall within that category, but you know what defines an immersive sim is a very complicated thing to answer. I feel like for some people.
Yeah, it's kind of like a complex debate. I mean, we could argue for ages
I
around it.
know. I was literally talking to someone the other day. They were saying this one thing, and I'm like, well, I mean, it's kind of this, but it's just one of those things. It's a weird thing to define a style of game.
Yeah, I think more or less everybody agrees what games can have the label, and some of games you're not quite sure. You know,
Right.
is Vampire Story, Vampire Bloodlines, it's an immersive sim or not? Like, for me it is, but for some people it's not. You know, because it's third person, and by the way, it's also like there are way too many data or whatever. You know, so
Right.
and it's more of an adventure game. I don't know. I don't care. I think it's a bit of a blur, but it's like some sort of a region in the in the zone of games where
Yeah.
usually would agree with an immersive sim. But anyway, yeah, the inspirations were. I don't know if there were specific inspirations as far as like, oh yeah, we're gonna take that game. I mean, you mentioned Fallout. Definitely, there was some Fallout because of the world, the travel map.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Which
Uh,
I love, by the way. I love that. It actually reminded me a lot of Wasteland as well, where you're just kind of like traveling
Mhm.
across and then you slowly unlock stuff. I love that a lot, actually.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of like it's a trick. It gives you a
Yeah,
sense of open world, but it's not, right?
yeah, right.
Of maps that are actually isolated, and then you kind of like your mind makes
Yeah, yeah.
the gap between the regions. But anyway, yeah, I think that the main inspiration was more sticking to the values of the type of games that I've always developed and loved my entire life. And you could say those the value of the immersive sims. But for me, it started a long time ago with a game called Ultima 7. In fact, was the I mean, I've started with Ultima 2 when I was young,
Yeah.
but Ultima 7 was kind of like the let's say the apex of all the Ultimas
Right,
in
right.
some ways. Again, that was debatable, but most people don't even know what Ultima is anyway today, right? It's
Yeah,
like talking
I
about
think
a
I
chart.
mainly know it because of watching interviews of yours, actually. And I have a friend who makes videos, and he's covered a few of the Ultimate games. So that's where most of my knowledge of those come from. They're not quite as well known as like a System Shock or the Deus Ex games or anything like that, but they're really
For sure.
important in starting immersive sims, though.
Totally, totally. The same way, nobody knows the Pixies, but they were the inspiration to Nirvana that people know,
Yeah,
in the band thing. And some people know for the Pixies. It's not
right.
that nobody knows about it. But like in term of like fame, you have those like extremely instrumental groups, bands that a few know that actually were like the reason why some of the bands that are super famous now exist, right? So it
Right.
ultimately is a little bit that. If you talk to, we talk to the Divinity Original Sins guys, it's the same. Like, oh
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
never mentioned because that's their choice. They decide not to talk about it because it confuses gamers. If you say like, what is your next game? Oh yeah, it's a little bit like Ultimate. What?
Right. Yeah. That's
So
yeah.
there, but like they are at heart, fans of Ultima. Like
Yeah.
I could tell when I played Divinity Original Sins, like yeah, I see where those guys come from. The same I come from. And hopefully there are people that 10 years from now will be making games that are they mentioned that old game called Dishonored that nobody remembers.
I'm sure it'll happen eventually.
Yeah, I
um.
think it's how art works in general.
Oh yeah. Um. Let's say, what was one of your favorite games to work on out of all the games that you've made? You think maybe one of the best experiences?
Man, they were all the best and the worst at the same time, and depending on what phase of development. I have nightmares from Arx Fatalis, my first game at Arcane, but I also have wonderful memories of Arx Fatalis, and I could say the same for every of my games.
I mean, I guess that's a
Um,
that's a good thing though. I mean, at least none of them were just absolutely terrible or anything like that. That's always a good thing. Actually, I
yeah,
really like Arx Fatalis. I've played a little bit of it so far. I got to get a little bit more into it, but it's pretty cool so far. It was cool because I really like Prey a lot, and it's probably one of my favorite games now. And there's so many connections to Arx Fatalis and Prey, and then going back and playing
yeah,
Arx Fatalis and looking and seeing all those Easter eggs is really cool.
yeah. It's interesting because I wonder how Arx plays today. I obviously haven't launched it in a long time, but
They have like
I
a
remember those
fan
being.
patch or whatever that I guess smooths it up a little bit here and there and
Mhm.
fixes some things. I don't really know because I everybody recommended installing it, so I was like, okay, I'll install that patch or whatever. And but I think the recent like digital re-release of Arx Fatalis that Arcane did, I think might already have that like basically already have that patch or something because they modified it I guess a little bit themselves or something. But I mean
Yeah.
ultimately it plays pretty smooth for the most part.
All right. Well, That's good to know.
Yeah,
It's, I tell you that when we did ours about 20 years ago, I had no idea that someone would still be would be playing it today.
right, right. Um, got just a couple more minutes left, but I was gonna say, what was your one of your favorite things developing Prey, and is Wolfeye gonna still make some immersive sims in the future?
Mm, one of the favorite things developing Prey would be, sometimes we have this aha moments, like the first time we saw the mimic creature doing something that surprised even us, the developers, or whenever we do a tool like the glue gun, and it offers possibilities that we had imagined, but it actually offers like other possibilities as well that we did
Yeah,
not necessarily imagine
that
immediately.
gun is
So
basically the master key of all immersive sims, right there. That's like, that's just like they'll literally open up every possibility in that game in crazy ways.
yeah, and I would say that's pretty much the best moments in for me in game development in general. It's whenever our systems become alive and they go beyond what we were hoping for, and we
Right.
just like we go, oh yeah, this is really cool. And even cooler than that is when two of the ones you created now like have a little moment together and create an emergent thing
Oh yeah.
uh, that you did not see come as well. So it's all about that. It's all about being surprised by your own, your own systems. That's really what I
I
would
think
say.
Prey more than any of them actually almost. I mean, infinite is like an infinite replayability is a pretty big thing, but I mean, I feel like it has way more replayability than I would ever imagine going into it initially. Now I've beaten the game, I couldn't tell you how many times. But every time I play it, I always find something new. I always experience something that I didn't experience another playthrough, and that's what honestly puts it so high on my list of games because it's just so it's so intriguing every single time you play it.
Awesome. Yeah, that's what we hoped when we make those games. And to your question, will we make more? Yes, there's no reason why we would make other type of games. No, that's what we know how to do. So as long as we make games, we're pretty going to do that.
Well, uh, it was yeah. So thank you for joining me today and talking to me a little bit. And I was going to ask if you make another game, Wolfeye. You want it to be a first-person game this time, or
We'll see. Right now, there's nothing announced, nothing set in stone. So we'll see.
all right? That sounds good to me. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
You have a good one.
You too. Bye.